Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
This is Night Dreams Talk Radio Network News, and I'm James Creechbaum. And here's a report from a trucker who sent this in, and it goes something like this. Near the Allentown, Pennsylvania truck stop is a 24-hour diner that caters to locals and truckers alike. It has an odd vibe I could never fully explain. One late night I was having dinner and got to talking about the history of the diner with a waitress and another customer. She said it was built on an Indian graveyard, and several pedestrians had been killed in front of the diner. We talked about some of the strange happenings, like lights turning off and on, for no reason. Then, all of a sudden, a customer, who no one had ever seen before, said, "There was a young girl about 12 to 14 killed in front of here, wasn't there?" Oh, and an employee in their mid-30s who everyone thought was a bit weird or creepy, maybe named Lenny. The waitress got a weird look and said, "Yeah, about 10 years ago, a schoolgirl was walking home in front of here and was struck and killed. Also, our dishwasher was hit crossing the street one night before work, and his name was Lenny." Needless to say, things got real quiet, and the subject was changed. "Can we say check, please?" And they left right after that. A huge greenish anomalies and formation of bright lights moving in space. On January 19th, a strange greenish anomalies have been recorded via the ISS live feed. Now, for the second and third time, another witness using the same ISS live feed app recorded a new group of these strange anomalies and something like a huge formation of bright objects moving next to the greenish anomalies. Then that was on February 1st and February 2nd. Here's an incident that came in about I believe it was a lady, and her report on her aliens trying to abduct her. The incident that was the most overwhelming was on the night when gray aliens came to take me while I was pregnant. I simply wanted no part of this. When they approached me from across the bedroom, I jumped up and grabbed one of the two beings by its lean neck. I squeezed it as hard as I could until I heard a crack. It dropped to the floor as its head fell back across its spine. The other gray seemed shocked, though it was hard to read an expression on him. It gathered his injured companion and quickly disappeared in bright light that had originally flooded the master bedroom. I felt very bad about this incident, but I had been out of sorts all day, and I didn't want to be bothered. And that was her report on that. A giant metallic disc with portals seen in the sky over Tulsa, Oklahoma. The witness goes on to say, "I was walking with she was walking with her son to school when she saw a huge metallic disc with portals in the sky over Tulsa, Oklahoma on January 20th. The sun was reflecting off of it, and although it scared her what she saw, she took a photo of the UFO with her phone." Now, the witness goes on to say, "I can tell you, first of all, there was a humming noise that I heard that was not heard by anyone else all that night before. And it was huge. I'd say maybe 3 football fields wide. It was surrounded by clouds that were all different colors. It was very low, and the top part of it was completely enveloped." Haunted Indiana mansion with numerous ghosts is now for sale. A Victorian mansion in Indiana is currently for sale, and it comes with furniture as well as several ghosts that are haunting the home of Whispers Estate. Is located on Warren Street in the town of Mitchell, and it sits on a 1/4 acre of land. The home, which dates back to the 1890s, includes a former entry, 10-foot ceilings, and a stone basement and extra space on the third floor. Next news break, top of the hour.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Let's bring our guest on the show. Hopefully she's there. Are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Hi, Gary.
How you doing? If you hear any dogs barking, we got 2 dogs visiting us here today down at the studio, and these dogs are like about 125 pounds each.
Oh, my.
So they're kind of huge. But anyway.
Who let the dogs out, Gary?
My son. I'll tell you that. I tell you, they're big. Anyway, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, first, I'd like to introduce myself to everybody, and thanks for tuning in. This is an excellent show, I must say. Night Dreams with Gary Anderson. I'm so thrilled to be here. My name is Jean Broida, Broida. I'm an author, a paranormal reporter, a mystic, a magician, a scientist, and a sleuth.
Oh, wow. Do you have time for anything else?
What else is there?
I don't know. Go in the grocery store, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, well, yes. There is that.
Yeah.
What the Chinese call the 1,000 little things.
Oh, yeah. But it sounds like your cart is really filled. But anyway, what made you get into writing this book of unknown objects?
Well, I'll tell you what. I avoid terms like download information or channeling information. Even though I am a channel, I do channel information. I have to tell you, my higher self was instructing me to write this book, that it was past due after my father died. And I mentioned him in the introduction. He was the best scientist I knew in my life, a true skeptic who tested theories, collected data, and didn't toss out data that didn't match the data set, kept all the data to interpret, and had contracts with governments and corporations to do feasibility studies and economic analyses. He also spent a year working on nuclear development, and he taught me how to reason and use my mind, which is becoming apparently a rare talent these days, although I don't mean any disrespect to any particular person. It just seems to me that part of American educational dumbing down is not being able to look at a simple math problem and decide out of 4 choices which is the only one that could be reasonable, just based on magnitude. If you know what I'm saying?
You have to
10 times 4. Is it 4, 40, 400, or 4,000? You shouldn't have to get a calculator out to know the answer to that.
Yeah, but do you blame it on the computer or I hate to say it, when they invented the calculator, I knew that was going to happen, have you ever been in a grocery store or any type of store and they have a power outage and the clerk has to use their math skills? They don't know how to make change.
They're helpless, and I'll tease them in my own fiendish way. I will say the bill rings up to 96 cents. I'll give them $1. I'll give them $1 and a penny to get a nickel back. And they look at me like they want to give the penny back, and I say, just bring it into the register and watch math magic happen. Math magic. I love that. But in terms of mathematics and computing, I have no problem with computational devices, things that do math really fast. That's a computer, right? We needed computers to crunch all kinds of data, so they tell us. In fact, there's a tie-in with UFOs that the aliens said, we need computers so you can understand our data.
Oh, yeah. But unfortunately, our computers aren't able even to do that.
Well, at least it's kind of like teaching a kid block lettering. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but do we actually have time with the Earth changes going on? Maybe a magnetic pole shift, flip and all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things going on Earth right now. And then, all these sightings of UFOs, instead of like slowing down this time of year, because they normally from December all the way up to, a few more months, slow down. They haven't slowed down this year. They have actually increased.
So do you think that's because there are more devices held by people looking at skies that are capable of recording video? There are more data capturing devices in the world in the hands of people using them, or do you think the actual number of incidents is on the rise?
I think
that's the question, right? A skeptic has to ask.
I think it's, a combination of both. I think
you're right.
Yeah, I think ever since the Nimitz video came out, it got some of these non-believers to kind of, maybe they're now skeptic. Well, maybe we are being visited. But I'm telling you, it's gotten scary. I mean, have you ever heard of people like
video coming out of Mexico? Mass sightings. There was a news reporter standing on a rooftop talking about the construction project or something, and a UFO just appears in frame, hovers there. Finally, somebody on the crew points, and the newscaster looks over the shoulder and then keeps on keeping on. I mean, this is nutty.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay.
Get enthusiastic.
Well, just like at Air...
You were talking about being scary with the Nimitz sightings. Is that your reaction, fear? Because
I don't think it's fear. I think it's opened people's eyes that maybe we are being visited. But even pilots are saying stuff. A pilot here on an Airbus, a jet here with a full of passengers saw a UFO the other day. And this one is kind of weird. It is shaped like a cube.
Ooh, I saw that. In fact, I covered it for the dailyconspiracy.com, where I'm a lead contributor and write daily articles. That was weird. I wrote an article on January 2020 sightings. Now it's last month, but when I wrote it, it was the end of that month, first month of the new decade, right? Typical UFO sightings, right? But this one wasn't that typical, the flying cube. And it wasn't quite a cube. It was more like one of those weird geometric shapes that's like a 10-sided dice or something like that they throw in Dungeons and Dragons.
What do you think it was?
I think it was, the question now is, was it ours or theirs? And it's harder and harder to know after decades of reverse engineering downed craft by terrestrial governments.
Yeah, that is, I'm going to be honest with you. I have an extensive electronic background. My father, was a electronic engineer. He worked for Boeing, and he, when they were going to build the SST aircraft years and years and years ago, he was in charge of developing some of the electronics for it. Yeah, and I have always been, I've been in broadcasting since '76. I've always been kind of intrigued about UFOs and stuff like that. I remember talking to my father, and I said, "Hey, do you think we could reverse engineer?" And my dad laughed. He goes, "Let's look at it. Let's go back to 1920 and hand the top scientists in the world a cell phone and say, 'Hey, duplicate it.'" It's no way it's going to happen.
Have you heard or met David Adair?
I heard of him.
This guy I met at Contact in the Desert last May, early June. Had not actually heard of this man. I probably saw a video in the misty distant past, but it hadn't stuck with me. But this guy, as a teenager, developed a rocket that was powered by a fusion engine, and that got the attention of the federal government, who, long story short, brought him on as a private contractor to government aerospace projects. And he describes in great detail in videos you can find easily online his experiences being introduced to the craft the very first time, which was pulsating and had swirling colors and changed when he brought his hand or body near it. And he clambered up on it and realized in very short order this thing was actually alive in some sense, in a very real sense. It was alive and responding to him. This ship was organic and had consciousness. And this is just one of many, many, many insider stories about this weird thing that supposedly doesn't exist.